Hey guys, Zach's on Nelson Tractor. Today we're gonna be doing a video on beginners for excavators and kind of just talking to you and showing you some tips and pointers about how to be safe, how to be efficient, how to learn how to operate an excavator. If you're an experienced operator, might not be a video for you, but let's just go over some basic stuff to know and how to be safe and efficient and learn to use your excavator. One thing I always like to consider when you're gonna go run any piece of equipment is what's the weather like? Has it rained? Is it wet? Is it dry? That's gonna matter with your traction, how the material is gonna be handled, and really just gonna overall affect the performance of the machine. Second thing, step over here to the KX080-4 we've got. I think this one is actually Mr. W.C. Nelson's. Gonna wanna look around your surroundings, before you get in this machine and fire it up. Also, you need to know if you're digging what's in the ground. There's a lot of utilities. You got power, internet, water, sewer. So obviously want to know like what's in the ground. You don't want to hit any of those things. So when you hop into any piece of equipment, always want to practice 3 points of contact when you get into it. A lot of guys actually fall, break a leg, hurt themselves just getting into it is where a lot of your incidents occur. On most of all your excavators, these doors will lock. So before you crawl in it, make sure it is locked. That way it doesn't swing out when you grab it. So we'll hop in here. So now that we're in the excavator, first thing we're at our ignition switch right here on our right side. So it's kind of colder. We'll let this thing glow plug a little bit. They're on a timer, so it'll go off, and it shows here on your dash that it's preheating your glow plugs. So now that we have this machine fired up, you're gonna wanna look at your display, and it'll tell you, you got your fuel gauge, you got your engine temperature, a lot of them will show RPMs, hours, but wanna look right here and make sure we don't have any error codes, service codes, and obviously this one here doesn't, so we're good. The biggest safety feature on them, I guess, would be your lockout. So right here on my left-hand side, this is your safety lockout. So the machine's running, but if I sit here and I try to drive it or I try to move my boom around, it's not going to do anything because this safety lockout is up. So before this machine will actually, operate, this handle here has to be pushed down. This machine also does have the blade, angle blade on it. So right here on my right-hand side, you'll also see your blade control. So if we push down our lockout lever, today we're going to be running ISO. That's what I learned on. That's what I know. A lot of people refer that to excavator controls, cat controls, the SAE. People around here refer to it as, John Deere, backhoe, and basically all you're doing is switching your functions here on your boom and your dipper sticks in the excavator control or ISO, which is what I know. And two, you want to pick a pattern, pick a control option and stick with it. You don't want to switch in between, because I can tell you right now, I can run it pretty good right here in ISO, but if I were to switch it over to, the backhoe mode, I could barely hit the bucket on the ground. Your basic functions on these things, so right here are 2 joysticks. If we got on our right-hand side, we have our boom up and our bucket curl. So if I pull this lever back, we'll see that our boom is raising in the air. If we push this lever down, our boom is going down towards the ground. If I push this stick in, we're curling our bucket. And if I push this lever out, we're going to be dumping our bucket. On our left-hand side, we have our stick out and our swing control. So I'll show you here, stick out. If we push the lever out, we notice our bucket's getting further away from us. And if we pull it in, it's coming closer to us. Most of your, not all of them, but most of your excavators, I can bring this bucket all the way in and I can curl it. It's not gonna hit the machine. You think you're like, man, that's awful close. Not saying all of them are that way, but most of your minis and some of your smaller excavators, they won't hit themselves. Now, if you have some brush, that's a different story. You need to be careful there. And we talk about our swing control on this left-hand joystick. So if I take and push it to the left, I'm going to swing to the left. If I take and push it to the right, I'm going to swing to the right. Now these excavators, obviously, you see them in videos, they will swing in a complete circle. You can spin around all day long right here till you're dizzy and you want to throw up. So that's your stick controls right here, your boom, your stick, your swing controls. right here on these 2 levers. Like I mentioned, this one here and pretty much all your Kubotas are gonna have a blade on them, and then your minis. But this lever here, if I pull it up, raise my blade up, I have a toggle here on top of that. If I go to the left, it's gonna angle the blade to the left, go to the right, angle blade to the right. Now we're gonna talk about our track controls. So right here, you got these 2 joysticks. For learning, obviously you want to be in a kind of an open area. You know, you see a lot of guys in videos, they'll use their feet and they'll drive with their feet, and you know, that's eventually, you know, you'll get to the point where you can be really efficient and you can drive and move your boom around and dig all at the same time. But starting out, I'd recommend just reaching up here, using your hands, you know, and if you push them forward, you're gonna go forward. If you pull them back towards you, you're gonna go in reverse. If you wanna go turn to the right, turn this to the right, pull that one, turn to the left, pull your left. Handle there, kind of like a 0 turn. If you've been on a 0 turn, the controls are pretty much the same way. Like I said, as you get comfortable, as you get more experienced, you can take and put your feet right here. This is how I operate. And you can drive and swing and dig and do all the things at once, and it just makes you a lot more efficient, a lot faster. But when we're talking about digging, we'll dig right here and kind of give you just some tips and pointers on really any excavator. You notice there we had the shot looking at the tracks. Your drive motors right now, the drive motors are behind me, so they're at the back of the tracks. In the front right here, if you look down at the track right here, that's going to be our rollers. So you always want to try to dig. It doesn't always happen this way. Sometimes you're going to be digging with the drive motors. You want to try to keep your drive motors to the back and keep your rollers up front. And obviously, if it has a blade on it, you want to keep your blade to the front and keep your blade down. It's going to keep you a lot more stable. But the reason you want to have your drive motors to the back is because those are probably one of the most expensive things to replace on this machine. And if you're digging right over top of your drive motors, and if you're slamming into them and hitting them, eventually you could possibly cause some issues. So always try to keep those at the back. And dig with your rollers to the front. Now, this doesn't always happen. I mean, I'm guilty of just, swinging around and digging wherever I can. But try to remember that if you can. Like I said, with a machine with a blade on it, and like I said, most of all your Kubotas are going to have that. Before you start digging, you want to put your blade down. And what that's going to do is just going to really get this machine stable to where it's not going to be rocking back and forth once I start to dig. So that's important right there. So now I'm going to stretch out, and we're going to kind of start to dig here. Now, the whole concept when digging with an excavator is you want to be smooth and fluent with it. How I describe it, if you've never operated one, if you say you had a sandbox and you want to take your hand, you want to scoop sand to you, you're scooping sand with your hand. That's the same motion that you want to have digging with an excavator. Now, it's going to take time before you feel comfortable or feel like you're doing it the proper way, because you kind of want to have your teeth at an angle. Like I said, we're stretched out here, and it's easier too to learn to dig with the machine stretched out. It's a lot harder to dig if I bring this boom in, the bucket in. It's a lot harder to learn to dig just right up here next to my blade. So for learning and beginners, stretch your bucket out like that right there, and you basically want to rake the teeth across the ground right there, and you're just kind of cutting off the first few layers of soil. So now we got a full bucket. We turn to our side over here and we'll dump that bucket. So like I said, kind of if you can imagine digging with your hand, kind of a scooping, pulling to you motion is going to be the best way to get all the efficiency and power out of it. Now, these machines too, like I can boom down right here and it's going to pick the machine up off the ground, or you can bog them down if you're not being fluent with them. So right here, so you can kind of hear the machine and you can see that it's bogging a little bit. And like I said, we're still too, I want to note this, we're running this excavator out of idle right now. If you're brand new to an excavator, you've never been one, I would highly recommend when you're learning to run it at an idle or just a little above idle, because the more throttle you give it, the more RPMs it has, the faster everything's gonna react. I can rev it up right here wide open and stretch out. Like I said, we just wanna do a raking, digging, pulling motion. And obviously the goal is to get a full bucket right there, and we did do that. Another thing we're gonna talk about, you kind of have an idea of how to dig, but let's talk about when we have a full bucket, or we'll say we have a log or have a tree, and we're wanting to swing around and move that. So if I go reach back out here again, like I said, get your teeth kind of at an angle, and it's kind of a pull and scoop motion is essentially what you're trying to, and you'll hear and feel the machine, and you'll kind of get the feel for when you have it right. So as you see, like naturally, whenever I pull this full bucket, I'm already pulling it kind of closer to me right here. You're the most stable with that bucket right up here next to you. So if I swing out, I don't feel the machine tipping any. It feels really stable. If I come back over here, if you got a full bucket, and let's say you stretch it way out there, like that, I'm starting to start feel the machine just a little bit tippy there. So what I'm getting at is when you're moving a full bucket, whether it's a pinch of brush or your full bucket of dirt or a log or tree, rock, whatever, when you go to turn, you always kind of want to keep that bucket close to you, and then when you get where you want to dump it, you can dump it out. But when you're swinging, you got all that momentum, you don't want to be stretched all the way out and get that tipping motion. And two, a lot of that will be combated by having this blade down. If I were to have the blade up, that also kind of affect that. Another thing too, we'll spin around and we'll talk about traveling with these excavators. So like I mentioned earlier, we're kind of in an open field. There's not anything to worry about as far as power lines, power poles, anything like that. So whenever I'm driving an excavator, I like to kind of keep my boom about halfway out of the full reach there and, 2 or 3 foot off the ground. And then you can travel with it that way. Now, like I mentioned on these Kubotas, we've got a blade on the front of them. And it's got the angle function on it. So if I want to push this dirt right here into this hole, we're going to put that bucket down just right on top of the ground. It'll take some time getting good at this. There's still times where I dig a little too deep or don't dig enough, but get that blade just right on the ground. We're just going to skim off kind of the top layer there and essentially push that dirt back into the hole. And as you get good, you can kind of angle your blade left or right to control which way material is going. Starting out though, you can just take and push some dirt and kind of get the feel for it. Next thing we'll kind of go over, I know a lot of people around here buy these things to clean up your property and clear lands, open up some areas. We'll go up here and take out some of these small trees. I'll kind of give you some tips and pointers on that. So we'll spin around. So what I'm doing right here, we got these trees on this bank. Always kind of try to be uphill from the trees that you're taking out. Obviously you don't want to be downhill. You don't want the tree falling on you. So we're a little off camber terrain. So I'm going to put my blade down, stabilize me. So this little sapling here we got in front of us, this machine will take down some really big trees. But for demonstration, I'll just show you. So bigger trees, larger trees, you're going to want to dig around the stumps right here. Take a couple scoops on the left and right hand side and even the back side of it. And then basically you're going to push it over. These smaller saplings like this right here, what I like to do is we're going to activate our thumb right here, hit our aux button. We can bring our thumb down a little bit. I like to bring my thumb down. If we're going to take this tree to the right side, we're going to take it down the hill here. Bring my thumb down. Basically, I'm going to try to like cradle and direct this tree in the right direction. You see right there, I kind of caught the tree and I got the thumb holding it from coming back to me, and then the bucket's also kind of holding it where I want to push it. This tree's pretty small, so I'll probably be able just to snap it right off. Like that right there. Break it down. Like I said, you'll get better at this as you do it. The larger machines, like this 80, I can just pinch this thing off right there. Another pointer too, I have a lot of guys do this, is if you're gonna be clearing, digging stumps, and doing tree work, it is better if you do have a narrower bucket. You can see we got the 36-inch bucket on here, which is fine, it's doing the job, but you're just disturbing a pretty large area. Another thing too is you got to think about how wide that bucket is and how much tension and torquing you're doing on your quick coupler. With a narrower bucket, it's not quite as bad. So we'll take another scoop right here on the left-hand side. Like I said, we're just trying to pop up some of those top roots right there. Headway now. So there we got the stump. That's kind of just a quick little demo on how to dig a stump. If you do plan on burning the stumps, not a bad idea to take them, drop them, get some of the dirt off of them. Obviously, dirt and fire don't mix really well, but take them off, drop them like that a few times if you plan on burning them. If not, you can just take them and throw them to the side, fill your hole back in. But I always like to kind of try to shake some of the dirt off mine, but that's kind of how you dig a stump right there. So we'll go back down the hill here. So the video today is kind of showing you some tips and pointers on how to learn how to run an excavator if you're a beginner. Like I said, I'm not an expert, I don't know everything. These are just some things that I've picked up and learned over my years of running some equipment. If you guys do have questions, feel free to give us a call. We'd love to help you out any way we can. Thank you guys for watching. Experience the difference at Nelson Tractor.